Alright, did anybody want, hopefully you all got an average. Anybody want to share the average they got? Carter?
6.36.
Thank you, sir. Alex? Thank you. Alright, so you should have gotten an average of about 6.36 hours per day. So then if we look at the data from our class, would it be a good representation of all high school students here at North? Yes or no?
No.
A lot of no's. Why not?
Because it varies from student to student.
Okay. So, Michelle.
Also, there isn't a large enough sampling size for the entire population, so you need more representation.
Hold up. Say that again for me.
It isn't a large enough sample size. Also, we need random sampling since it's just one class and it's very like specific.
Okay. So Michelle said the sample size is too small. And she said that this isn't a random sample. Too small. And what is it about this class that makes it not random enough?
It's an AP class.
And what does that mean?
We're smart. We
Yes, you are smart.
We might spend less time doing schoolwork than being on our phone.
AP class. So Carter says that could mean that we do more homework, less online stuff. Maybe for some of you. What else? What else is? Oh, sorry, Nate.
Kind of similar to that, where like a specialized class, like something like a 3D modeling or an architectural drafting class might spend way more.
Okay.
So more than just AP, where a specialized math class, you probably spend some more time on pen, paper, calculator.
So you're saying because I make homework old school?
Yes.
True.
Not a fan of online homework. What else? Any other thoughts? We actually have a pretty good mix of guys and girls in here. We don't have any freshmen though. So we're missing out on freshmen. So it doesn't represent our the high school because North has freshmen. Not in this class. We have sophomores, yes. We have 2 sophomores.
What?
I don't know if they want to be called out or not. There's no freshmen in here. There are sophomores. Should I say freshies? No freshies in the class. Any other reasons why our class wouldn't be a good representation of the population? I think we covered quite a few. Nobody wants to add anything? Okay. So I handed out the unit overview. This is my least favorite unit. There's no math. Besides you finding the average right there, I don't think we do math in a long time. I hate it. Hold up. Just because there's no math, there's quite a bit of writing. There's a lot of definitions. Ugh. I don't know if any of you have looked at the notes for today, but it's all words. I hate it. All right. Yeah, a lot more talking, which is not my style. You do have a test. It's going to be on Thursday, November 18th.
That's like 16 days.
Well, yeah, it's not.
Wait, yeah, this is good.
And you have a project for this unit.
Wait, that's cool though. Like, what can you
Make an experiment.
The project will be due after Thanksgiving, though.
No.
So you will have some time. And it will be your choice to do it individually or with a partner.
How many partners?
Partners.
2?
One. Either a group of one or a group of two. No groups of three.
Well,
Avery.
Technically, group of 2 would be considered partners.
Okay, whatever. Noah.
so if I have a partner and it's Sam,
Okay.
and Eric is my dog.
I'm not handing.
I'm part blind, and Eric is like my dog that like helps me move around.
He's your service dog?
Yes. And so I need him with me.
Okay, when I hand out the project, I will say no again. So, project will be due, I don't know what day I see you after Thanksgiving, but it's due the first time I see you after Thanksgiving. Whenever that is. Which would be
What if there's 2 separate partners
November 30th.
that just like work together?
You guys keep pushing your luck. I'm going to make you all do it individually.
No.
But what if we do it all
She said
together?
it's literally everything that makes me psychology.
All right, so let's get into these joyously boring definitions. Why are you guys so excited for no math?
No
It
math.
hurts my feelings.
What did you say?
The November 30th. All right, so sampling and survey. I really don't enjoy this unit. In a statistical study, the entire group of individuals about which we want information is called the population. If we're able to get information from every individual, the survey is then called a census. So you guys have probably heard of the U.S. Census. It's loosely using the word correctly because it's every household. They did it in 2020, and it was an online thing. And they sent you a postcard, and I didn't do it. And they sent me another postcard, and I didn't do it. And they sent me another postcard, and I didn't do it. And they finally sent me a letter, said if I didn't go online and do it myself, they'd send a government official to my house to watch me fill out the census.
Damn.
I was like, fine, I'll go do it. Because that's why you don't get on your phone, Eric. That's how they enforce making sure every individual actually answers. Otherwise, they can't call it a census. Don't get on your phone, Eric. You miss cool things.
What about like?
I thought you were supposed to start using his phone.
He said he was going to give me his phone. He did it one day, and then he lost
Actually,
steam.
he didn't even do it. I'm pretty sure you just grabbed it off his desk.
He said, next quarter I'm going to start giving you my phone. And I said, how about we start today?
Don't do it the stairs.
I have to admit, the one day that I took your phone and it was on my desk, I left it with the screen up and it distracted me. So I'm going to put it face down today so it doesn't distract me. All right. So more often than not, you can't get a census, so we take a sample of the population. And we use the information from this sample to draw conclusions about the population. You want the sample to be representative of the population. So what does that mean? Kind of like you guys pointed out in the warm-up, this class doesn't represent the high school. There's lots of characteristics about this class that would not be mirrored in the high school population. So the best way to say we want our sample to be representative of the population is we want our sample to mirror the characteristics of the population. That way we can take the results of the sample and infer it for the population. Of course, you can't make it exactly a mirror. You want to try and make it a decent mirror of your population, but it's not going to be perfect. And then down here, it doesn't really look like it, but I italicized this because this is like the type of problem you'll see in your homework tonight. But it doesn't look any different than the other words. So. It says a high school's student newspaper plans to survey local businesses about the importance of students as customers. From telephone book listings, the newspaper staff chooses 150 businesses at random. Of these, 73 return the questionnaire mailed by the staff. We want to identify our population and the sample. So we're just going to put population, write what the population is, and then sample. I personally find it easiest to start with the sample because they're the ones that are actually taking the questionnaire. So the 73 who returned the questionnaire are the sample. The population is what I tend to see kids mix up. A lot of kids will tell me it's the 150, but it's actually all local businesses. The 150 is what they were hoping the sample would be because they mailed all of them the questionnaire, but only 73 returned it. But the population is all local businesses. And then, of course, there are ways that we sample and survey poorly, and I'm going to talk about those now. Can I move it up? So a sample that consists of people who choose themselves by responding to an appeal is a voluntary response sample. And what happens with voluntary response samples is often you only get people who have really strong opinions who reply. And my example is going to date me. I'm going to sound old. Anybody have parents who actually still get a physical newspaper? Oh, that's amazing. Okay, any of you, well actually, I don't even know if she's still alive. She was an advice columnist in the newspaper. Anybody heard of Ann Landers?
She was a what?
Advice columnist. People before the internet used to write into the newspaper, ask for advice, and they had one person who was in charge of responding to all the letters. And she was the most famous one. I can't remember what the thing was called. It was only on Sundays and it went out nationwide. And she would write advice to people. So here's my example. See, I told you it was going to make me sound old because I actually remember reading her column when I was little. I can't remember how it started, but she had somebody write in. Maybe they were considering having kids, and the person asked Ann Landers to ask her readers if they could go back and do it all over again. Would they choose to have kids again, or would they choose not to have kids? What do you think the results she got were?
No kids.
No kids. Overwhelmingly don't have kids. That was what the readers who took the time to write in said. Don't have kids. It ruins your life. Okay? So that is an example of voluntary response where you get people who only have really strong opinions to reply. I'm going to paraphrase. Asked readers. Have kids again. And she got lots of people who wrote in and said no.
Well, wait, she didn't give advice, she asked for advice for the next week?
She didn't ask for advice. She said, if you could do it again, would you? Somebody wanted advice, and a lot of times she would give her advice, but then she'd open it up for people around the world around the nation. I don't know if she was worldwide. And if you think about it, to get overwhelmingly no, the parents who don't enjoy having kids probably weren't spending time with their kids, so they took the time to write the letter to say don't have kids. But the parents who enjoyed the fact that they had kids probably were actually with them and were like, I'm not going to write in. That's a waste of my time. I want to be with my kids, right? So you can kind of see where voluntary response can lead to a certain result over another one. Another way that people do bad samples is that when you use a sample that consists of people who are easy to reach, that's called a convenience sample. In my example, I put mall, but I'm going to change it to Costco. I actually, oddly, have not been to Costco in a while, but I know last spring, and I think throughout the summer, there were people out on the sidewalk around Costco, and they had a petition to recall Governor Brown. What they were doing is called a convenience sample. They went somewhere where it would be easy for them to reach a bunch of people. It's a bad way to sample, but it makes it so you can get a lot of results really quickly. So that's an example of convenient sample. I'm going to abbreviate people. The biggest thing is you do a convenience sample to get results quickly. Both of these models show bias. So bias consistently underestimates or overestimates the variable of interest. See if I can fit those words on these lines I give myself. And bias systematically favors certain outcomes. So again, at the bottom, I put an example of what you're going to see in your homework. This one says, for the following situation, identify the sampling method used, then explain how the method could lead to bias. A farmer brings a juice company several crates of oranges each week. A company inspector looks at 10 oranges from the top of each crate before deciding whether to buy all the oranges. Is that A voluntary response sample or a convenience sample? Maddie? Convenience. Convenience. And how would that lead to bias?
Because maybe some of the other oranges aren't good, like you looked at the top.
Yeah. I mean, gravity, right? Bottom's gonna be more squished. And I hope that if I was the farmer, I wouldn't put all the bad oranges at the bottom, but like, if you knew that's the only ones they were gonna look at were at the top. Kind of, I don't know. I feel like it's human nature, but I also feel like that I'm saying that I'm a horrible person that I would do that, but we're gonna go with gravity. Not that I'm a bad person. Squished ones at the bottom. Put the pretty ones at top. Lots of different ways you can. Any questions before I flip the page over? I'm taking silence as I know. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to sample well. So good sampling techniques all utilize random sampling. And Michelle brought that up right away in our warm-up. We have to have random sampling. A simple random sample, which we will use that phrase so often that it's abbreviated. Even in your textbook, it's abbreviated. And the way it's abbreviated is SRS. So if I say SRS, I mean simple random sample. If you read it in a homework problem in your textbook, that's what it's referring to. So a simple random sample of n individuals from the population is chosen in such a way that every set of n individuals has an equal chance of being the sample actually chosen. So one way that's done is by using a table of random digits. Also known in statistics as Table D. It's in the back of your textbook, but I also printed one out for you. Although we can use graphing calculators, but we do need to know how to use Table D, because the cool thing about Table D is that, like on the AP exam, if they ask you to take a random sample using Table D, everybody gets the same answer, so it's an easy thing to check that you actually did it correct. Where if we all use our calculators, you get different answers, which is more random, but it makes it hard for us to check that your answer is correct, if that makes sense. So I will allow you to use calculators to choose random samples, but I'm also going to teach you how to use Table D, because like I said, it could show up on the AP exam. By the way, if you are going to take the AP exam, which you don't have to pay for, so it's not really a risky thing in my opinion. You need to do it by next Friday. You need to sign up If you need the join code again, I can give it to you. But next Friday is the latest. You can sign up for any AP exam, not just my class. And I don't know why I didn't leave one out for you. So this is table D, random digits. At least they say it's random. I have no idea how they actually made it. It is in the back of every statistics textbook. I've never actually checked to see if it's the same numbers in every textbook, but I'll show you how to use it in a minute. The thing about table D is that each entry in the table is equally likely to be any of 10 digits, 0 through 9. And each entry is independent of the previous entry, meaning knowing the previous entry does not affect the following entry. So when we're using table D, there are 2 steps to choosing an SRS, a simple random sample. The first one is the label. You have to give each member of the population a label that is the same length. And I would say that's my least favorite thing about using table D versus the calculator. Because if I'm choosing a sample from this class, there's 24 of you. So you all have to have 2-digit labels. So Hannah would be 01, not just the number 1, she'd be 01. Eric would be 02, Cheyenne is 03. So you can't have 1-digit numbers and 2-digit numbers. They all have to have the same length. And then once you have your label done, you use the table to read digits of the appropriate length from the table. And if we get a repeat, we have to ignore it. Because for the most part, there are a few exceptions, but for the most part, we are going to be choosing people for like surveys or experiments. And so I don't want to pick Maddie twice to participate in my survey. So if I got whatever her label is twice, I would ignore it so that somebody else would have a chance. So now I'm going to show you how to use it. Did you guys like how I spelled sample in this one? A SMAPLE, high school students. I want to ask a SMAPLE of high school students the question, how much do you trust information about health that you find on the internet? A great deal, somewhat, not much, or not at all. You try out this and other questions on a pilot group of 5 students chosen from your class. The class members are listed below. That's these names down here. So in part A, we're going to explain how you would use a line in table D to choose an SRS 5 students from the following list. Anytime you do this, you have to explain your method clearly enough that somebody else could copy it and get the exact same results. And then in part B, we're actually going to go through and choose our sample. So 2 steps. Step 1, we're going to describe how we label. So before I can label, I need to know how many names are in my list. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 by 5 is 40 students. So I have 40 students. And we'll put it up here. 40 students. So 40 is a 2-digit number. So when I label these names, they all have to have a 2-digit label. So we're going to label all the names with a 2-digit number. And here's the other weird thing, and this throws some kids off, but you will see it in some problems. I'm going to do 0, 1 to 40. That's not the only way I could label these names. I can choose any 42-digit numbers and labeled the names. So a lot of times you'll see 00 through 39, which is still 40 numbers. 1 through 39 is 39. The 00 is the 40th. I prefer, unless it's a population of 100, I prefer to start with 01. With a population of 100, if I go 00 to 99, it actually makes it smaller numbers I have to read. So if I have the ability to take a population that has 3 digits for its highest number and make it into 2 digits, then I use 00. But otherwise, I start with 1. Just because using 00, I've noticed, tends to throw kids off. So we're going to go with a 2-digit number between 01 to 40. And then, because I have to explain it clearly enough that somebody could copy me and get the same results, I'm going to specify whether I'm going to go across or down. Anybody have a preference? Doesn't matter as long as we all do it the same way. Down? Okay. So let's go down the columns. And then here's the other part that nobody likes. Well, I don't know. You guys seemed really excited there was no math in this unit, so you might enjoy labeling the names, but now we have to actually label the names. Which to me is not fun. And then in part A, we still have to do step 2, which is explain how we're going to read the digits from table D. So we're going to read 2-digit numbers. Until we get said we want to use a pilot group of 5 students. So we're going to go until we get 5 numbers. Between 0, 1, and 40. I have to specify that I'm going to ignore repeats. So ignore repeats. And then there's also a bunch of other 2-digit numbers that I'm going to ignore. Sorry, my comma looks funny. I'm going to ignore the number 0, 0. And I'm going to ignore the numbers 41 through 99. Right, you guys ready to use our table? So part B, and anytime it asks you to use table D, it usually specifies a line to start on. So it tells us to use line 107. If you notice, on the very far left side, that first column at the top says line. So we don't use those numbers to the left. Those are just the line numbers. So it says start at line 107. So we're going to start with this line, these 5 numbers here. Now it is chunked into 5 numbers, but we're reading 2-digit numbers. So when I start, the first 2-digit number is 82, which I ignore. That's not in my 0, 1 to 40. Then it's 73, still outside my range, so I ignore it. And then this 9 goes with the 5 to make 95. They just chunked it so that it's easier to read. If it was just a long line of numbers, it would be really hard. So even though there is a space between the 9 and the 5, because I want to read 2-digit numbers, I do read it as 95, which is still outside my range. After 95, the next 2-digit number is 78. I ignore that. 90, I ignore. And hey, look, we got our first number in our range, 20. We need 5 numbers. I'm just going to write them down off to the side. And I'm actually going to put this one on top so I don't have to keep flipping back and forth. 107. So we were at 20. After 20 is 80. Then I have 74, 75, 11. That's inside my range. Then I have 81, 67, 65, 53, 0, 0, so I'm going to ignore that. 94. Then I have 38. That's between 0, 1, and 40. Then I have 31. That's also in the range I want. 48 and 93. Now I got to the end of the line. I only have 4 numbers, but I want 5. So I just go down to the next line and start reading 2-digit numbers there. So first 2-digit number there is 60. Then I have 94. Then I have 07. So 07 is going to be the 5th one in my sample. Questions about using table B? So then now that I have my 5 numbers, I'm going to go through, figure out which 5 kids. So we have 20. I'm going to use a highlighter. Kid 20 is Johnson. 11 is Drayson. Oops. 38 Washburn. 31 Ryder, and 07 Callaway. And so using the table, it allowed us all to get the same answer. So on the AP exam, they can check and answer quicker. On the calculator, you can do it also. I personally like the calculator better because you don't have to make them all the same length. The calculator will automatically make the chance of choosing 1 the same as the chance of choosing 40. So we don't have to worry about the length of our labels. So on the calculator, everybody have their calculator out. I haven't done this in a year. I should have done it beforehand. We're going to go to math, which is second alpha math. And it should take you to this menu. And then we're going to go over to prob. So write an arrow over until prob is highlighted. And then we're going to choose number 5. Yes, older calculators, it's PRB. They don't have the O in there. We're going to choose number 5. I have tried for years to figure out how to use random, integer, no repeat, but it doesn't work. It will only give you 1 number. Random integer is going to give me 5 numbers between 1 and 40. So we're going to use number 5. Older calculators, it should just put, I have an older calculator. It's just going to put it into the home screen for you. So if you have an older calculator, see how it just put rand int and then it opened the parentheses. So just like with normal CDF, we're going to put this stuff in, and in the older ones you put the numbers separated by commas. So our lowest number is 1, because we're using the numbers 1 through 40. Upper is 40, and we want to choose 5 numbers between 1 and 40. Older calculators, 1, comma, 40, comma, 5. On the newer calculators, when I hit paste, then it puts it into the home screen for me. When I hit enter, I get 33, 40, 9, 36, and 18. When I hit enter on this one, I get 6, 21, 17, 30, and 2.
Who's the 5?
The 5 is how many I want in my sample. So to me, this is why I think calculators are cooler, because we all get different answers. Although, if you have a new calculator and you've never done this before and somebody next to you has a new calculator who's never done it before, you will end up with the same answer. Because it's set up to give a certain, none of it's random. I'm just being honest. It's a program. They can't make it perfectly random. Now, some of you might have done that and gotten a repeat in your 5 numbers. Anybody get a repeat? Okay, so you would just have to do it again. So, and you actually, an easy way, Tyler and Anna and anybody, if you're doing this and you get a repeat, if you hit second enter down at the bottom, it'll just re-enter your entry, and then you can hit enter. And I'm lucky, I keep getting 5 unique numbers, not getting any repeats. If you do get a repeat, just ignore that sample. Don't take 4 of the numbers and then get another one. Just do the whole thing over until you get 5 unique numbers. So calculator, to me, I think is easier, but like I said, table D allows them on the AP exam to make sure that we're all getting the same answer and you actually know how to pick a random sample. In your homework, if it says table D, you can use a calculator if you want. The only time is sometimes in a problem, it'll actually give you a list of numbers from table D that they want you to use. If it does that, just use those numbers, okay? Any questions? Maddie?
So if you use a calculator and you get a different answer, it's not wrong.
No. To me, that, like I said, that's what I like about the calculator, is because everybody does get different answers. So to me, it's more random. Anna? In multiple choice questions, they always give you a section of table D. That's what I've noticed. And then with free response, if they're going to give you a choice, they don't actually make you carry it out. They just want you to explain how you would do it. Michelle?
So like RS, would you just constantly this, or would you have to use WP?
Both. So again, multiple choice. I'm going to give you a section of table D so that you all can choose A, B, C, D, or E correctly. But if it's free response, I would let you choose. And you can do the calculator if you wanted. That's why the explanation part of like how you're going to label things and how you're going to choose your sample is so important. So that I could then grade it and know how you found it. So there are other sampling methods. A sample which is found by first dividing the population into groups of similar individuals known as strata and then finding an SRS for each strata is called a stratified random sample. So my example here is to take the high school, and there's an easy way we can put a high school into strata. We can do it by grade. So all freshmen are one strata, all sophomores are another strata, juniors are a different strata, and then seniors are another one. And then from the freshmen, I pick an SRS. From the sophomores, I pick a different SRS. From juniors, a different one, and from seniors, a different one. That would be called a stratified random sample. So take high school kids, break into strata by grade. Oops, I can't spell. Grade starts with a G, not an A. So we have freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. And then we would take an SRS from each class. A sample which is found by first dividing the population into groups and then selecting an SRS of these groups is called a cluster sample. And the important thing about a cluster sample is each group should mirror the characteristics of the population. So sticking with high schools, just for the sake of trying to keep things in the same realm. If I were to choose a class that most, I can't think of the word, most closely mirrors the population of a high school, to me that'd be PE, because you have guys and girls in PE. PE is not freshmen only or sophomores only, or like this class where it's mainly juniors and seniors with a couple sophomores sprinkled in. PE can be freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. So if, like I said, I'm just sticking with high school to stick in the same realm, I would say that a cluster sample would be to take PE classes and just pick a PE class and sample that class, and then pick another PE class and sample that. English doesn't mirror the high school population, math doesn't, science doesn't, social studies doesn't. Band might. There's freshmen through seniors in band, right? Yeah. Yeah, choir, art, sports, sports and kind of band. I don't know. Sports athletes tend to not always mirror the population. Sorry. And student government definitely doesn't mirror the population well at all.
There's no freshmen.
So let's say PE class. All genders, all grades. You do have athletes and non-athletes alike in PE, although back when I went to school, that saying makes me feel so old. You couldn't take independent PE. And no,
We still can.
She said they couldn't.
yeah, it wasn't an option. You all took PE when I was in school. There was no independent. To me, that's the only thing that might make a PE class not actually mirror the population of the high school. Anna?
Did you have to, like, if you played a sport, did you have to pay PE? 'Cause
Um,
now I know that if you
We
play a
did
sport-
get credit for sports for PE. We got a quarter credit per sport we played. I still took PE.
It's different.
No, because I like PE. But like I said, it's not going to be perfect. But using high school as our like realm, this would be the best way to mirror the population of population. And you would have to pick the PE class at random. And then sample the whole class. And then this last sampling method that I have never seen it show up on the AP exam, but I do like to talk about it because I think it's one of the few that you actually hear about on the news, even though they don't talk too much in depth about it. It's a sample in which one selects successively smaller groups within the population in stages. It is called a multi-stage sample. And they use that when they do presidential polls. And they talk about that all the time on the news. They'll talk about how the approval rating of the president for white middle-class women who live in rural areas, that's a multi-stage sample because they took females and then they broke it down by race. So that's one of the successively smaller groups. And then they broke it down by age. And then they break it down by where they live. Zach, use that one. Otherwise, that's just going to eat your pencil. So this is one of the few samples that they actually talk about on the news, but I've never seen it on the AP exam. But I like to put it out there. Go.
I don't want to interrupt you.
Thank you. All right. Any questions? I'm trying to think if I want to do this with you guys or not.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess. I really like this question. But since I'm going to do it for you, Hannah, you have to read for me. Because I'm really tired of hearing my voice.
Okay.
The manager of the sports arena wants to learn more about the financial status
You guys speak louder. Calvin can't hear you.
of the people who are attending an NBA game. He would like to give a survey to a representative sample of more than 20,000 fans in attendance. Ticket prices for the game vary a great deal. Seats near the court cost $100 each, while seats at the top cost $25 each. The arena divided into 30 numbered sections, 101 to 130. Each section has rows of seats labeled from letters A to ZZ.
Does anybody not know how they number and letter arenas and stadiums? No? So if we're talking about an NBA court, so it's usually pretty oval, right? Except for my oval was bad. And you have the court in the middle. Okay? So the numbered sections are like, they would have 101, 102, 103. I'm not going to make 30, but they have the numbered sections. Okay? So that is what they mean when they say numbered sections. So a numbered section starts at the court, goes all the way to the top of the arena. The letters for the rows go around. So A would be the row closest to the court. And then B all the way until you get to double Z up in the nosebleeds. Now the question says, and it's kind of hidden at the beginning. Can I cover up my picture? Okay. It says that the manager wants to learn more about financial status. So the amount of money people pay for the ticket is important. So near the court, $100. Top rows, $25. So first question, part A, says, why would it be difficult to give a survey to an SRS of 200 fans? So 200 random fans. Why would that be difficult? Actually, it's not that many compared to 20,000. But maybe it would take a lot of time. So, time might be an issue. What else might be an issue? Molly?
The sample size?
What do you mean?
Like, maybe that's not enough for
Actually, it's the perfect amount. It's 10%. 10% is the bare minimum you want.
I
Jillian?
was gonna say, it might be hard to get like a random sample because you can't just go to the top row and ask 200 people there. You have to like run around and ask them.
So they might be really spread out, right? Too spread out to get to. Alex?
Might not even get like 200 people because of watching.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to answer a survey if I went to an NBA game, right? So people choose not to answer. No answer. Noah?
Different seats cost, or like certain seats cost more money than others.
So if we choose an SRS, are we going to for sure have people up at the top and down at the bottom? No. We could end up with 200 in the middle, and that's not going to help us because we want to look at financial status. So we want to make sure we have people in the top row and in the middle and in the bottom. So it may not mirror our population for what we want to gather for our information. Not mirror population. Well. So then B asks which would be the better way to take a stratified random sample of fans, using the lettered rows or the numbered sections. As a reminder, a stratified random sample takes your population and breaks it into groups of similar individuals. We are interested in financial status, so we want to put them into groups where they should have similar financial status. So would that be the lettered rows that go around, or would that be the numbered sections that go from the bottom to the top? The lettered rows, because the rows are what determines how much you pay for a ticket. If you're in row A, you're going to pay more than somebody in row Z, who's still paying more than somebody in row double Z. So the lettered rows are a better way to break it up. Groups. Population. Into strata. By ticket price. And then of course C is going to be the opposite answer. So C says what's the better way to take a cluster sample of the pans? The lettered rows or the numbered sections. And a cluster sample, remember, is supposed to put them into groups that mirror the population. So the numbered sections have people down close to the court who pay more, and then all the way to the top in the nosebleed. So the numbered sections is the better way to pick our clusters. Any questions that you guys have for me?